we waited till the next morning and we went into outside of the city of Rome, Campobasso. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but anyway, it's a little village farm village outside of Rome. Well, by that time, I've got to get out of the compound that they kept us in for one day. And they finally agreed, because the people, the Italian partisans, who had harbored us all this time, verified to the American troops that that's who we really were. And so they took us back to Fifth Army headquarters, met General Clark, met his chief of staff, or his staff. We were interrogated for a while, and they said, "We've got to get you back to the United States." And I said, "Well, that's good news." So sure enough, we got back to Washington, D.C., went to the Pentagon, where it was interviewed for 2 weeks, debriefed, so to speak, told our story, and they said, "Okay, now you're free. You can go out. You've got a 45-day leave. You'll get your forwarding assignment after you get home." Now, my parents received a note from the American government that I was missing in action, and they knew nothing more than I was missing in action. Well, we got out of this thing, and I didn't have any money, just a few bucks that we had converted, that they converted for us at the Pentagon into American dollars. So I went to the Western Union office and wired my father for 25 bucks so I could catch the train to get back home. And he wouldn't send it. Well, finally, I was engaged at the time, and my then girlfriend and my mother convinced my father that it was worth 25 bucks just to see if this would really. So, I finally got to $25. And I got on the train and came back to Rochester, New York, and I got to tell you, I received the most fabulous welcome that you could ever possibly imagine, because they didn't have any idea what had happened to me over the last 6 months. So I'm now back in the United States. Everything is fine. I have a 45-day leave. I get married on the last day of the leave, and our honeymoon was on a wicker chair on a train from Rochester, New York to Camp Butner, North Carolina. That's how we spent our honeymoon. Anyway, I would love to answer any questions that you may have. I know you've been here all day, and there are plenty of things that I didn't have time to talk to you about. But if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them for you. But I hope you got a little fun out of this story, which is really kind of difficult. Question? Yes.
Sir, are there people in this room that never heard the stories of their fathers and grandfathers? And I'm just sitting here so happy for your family that they're in. I would just like to know who you have here with you.
Okay. Let's start right here. The man with the camera is my grandson, Drew, and his wife, Sarah. My friend, Nancy, who, well, we won't go into that. My oldest son, Donald, and his wife, Lee. So that's who's here today. And I got to tell you, it's been a pleasure to be able to come and talk to some people who maybe 50, 60 years ago were in the same boat that I was in. Yes?
What happened to your friend?
My friend? Jack. Okay. Jack. My friend Jack. This is a sad story. This is probably the saddest part of this whole deal. He went home to Island, New Jersey, and I went home to Rochester, New York. And of course, by that time, I thought I knew where he was, and he thought I knew where he was, and he thought the same in reverse. But sad to say, I have never, ever been able to locate him. Now, I've tried all over. Now, he's decided he's going to take the project on to find whatever happened to Jack O'Neill, who lived in Island, New Jersey, and maybe we'll get together again. Who knows? But I never did see him again. But he was a great guy, and I got to tell you, I owe my life to him. And the story, I mean, I wouldn't be here telling you the story without him. So thanks again. Unless you have anything else, I'll be glad to.
Yeah, we have one more question.
Well, I was wondering where his next set of orders were to, if you just stayed at that next base.
I'm sorry?
On the 46th day, you went down to a next base. Did you stay there?
Oh, well, okay. I'll try to give you a fast rundown. We went to Raleigh, North Carolina. And now I just told you we were married. And since we were going to be away, most of our wedding presents was money. And I still had 6 months of back pay coming that the Army owed me. And when I got there, they gave me the money. And now we had more money than we knew what to do with. And we decided that we would have a great time. And by this time, I met a couple of Rangers who had been captured and were now doing the same thing that I was. And we were assigned to Camp Croft, South Carolina from there. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. We was assigned to Camp Rucker in Alabama. And when I got to Camp Rucker, they asked if I would be interested in staying in the service and going to officers' candidate school. And I said, I don't know why I want to do that, but, you know, give me a good reason and I might consider it. And they said, well, most classes that run through Fort Benning, Georgia, the officers' candidate school there at the time, during wartime, had candidates who had German ancestry. And they said, well, here's what we want you to do. We want you to go to school, got to go through the whole rigmarole. We said, but we're going to give you the names of 5 people who had German ancestry and just mingle among them and find out, you know, if there's any problem. That's very simple. They were all great guys and there was nothing ever happened. But I got my lieutenant's part the same as they did. And then we were assigned to Camp Croft, South Carolina. And I got out of the service before the war ended. Thank you for reminding me, and I'll tell you this because it's a brief story. After a couple of months at Camp Croft, South Carolina, the commanding officer called and said, I'd like to talk to you. And so I went in, and he said, how would you like to get out of the service? And I said, I'd love to get out of the service. And he said, well, I think we can do it. And I said, how are you going to do it? And he said, well, it just so happens that in the rules of war and the Geneva Convention, there's a clause that says if you spend more than 30 days behind enemy lines, not associated with the Allies, you are considered a spy. And being considered a spy, we would never send you back overseas again, because if you ever got caught and it ever traced back, they'd execute you. So we're going to release you from the service if you'd like to go. I said, when can I leave? and so that's the reason I left right there.
I was on the way.
Yeah. He was going to be born, and I just decided that was the best thing to do, go home and be with my family for the first time. Anyway, I hope that answers your question. Kind of long, but... And there are many, many more stories. Sometime if you have more time and these people have an opportunity to come in, I'll come back.